All right. Okay, let me know when y'all can see me, and we will give it a go. Let me just make this thing here. Turn off my things. Oops.
Wait, am I joined?
I see.
Okay.
Somebody else is logged in. I guess either Will or Elric. But
It's me. I don't know why it joined me at the front side.
yeah, if you close it and like come back in, you'll see like a switch account at the bottom. When I tried to log in at first, it wanted me to be the front side too.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Might be me.
Today's the 12th, right?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get started, y'all. So let me now. Do you know how? Like when I'm doing my screen share, let me just let me start my screen share, and then I'll do my entire screen, and then over on here we will just hit play. Okay. Whoa, I'm getting mad echo. Let me know when you all can see my first slide.
I see it.
Okay, so we'll get started. So on the 3rd of November, back in 2017, I gave a lunch and learn on applicatives. And quite frankly, it was not good. It was a little bit of a disaster. And I want to go ahead and give a kind of just take a whole mulligan on that thing, because I realized watching the video and after the experience was over, I violated like my cardinal rule, which is to ask the question, why? Why are we doing this? I leapt right into the mechanics of what an applicative was without talking about why you would even want to do that. So let's talk a little bit about why. JavaScript has this really nice thing called dynamic function application. So I can take any function and I can, without knowing what the arguments are going to be, like I don't have to have variables bound to the arguments, I can just apply that function willy-nilly. So for example, where you might see this in the wild is like for event dispatch, where you want to, you know what the function you have, but you aren't going to know, like the place where you're binding the function doesn't know what arguments that function is going to receive until way down, could be minutes later, right? If you've got some button, like some click handler or something, you might pass an event, the event and the X value and the Y value. And so when you have a reference to that click handler, you don't actually know what variables are going to be what the arguments are that are going to be passed to that function. So it's really, really important. And so, it's really nice. So here's an example of, function application. We have this max function, right, that takes two integers or two numbers and tells you, it returns the larger of the two numbers. And so we can call that function normally. We can say max 50, 100, or we can, oops, my slides are a little bit off. Or we can actually, we can call it with dynamically. So let me go ahead and show this an example since I don't have a slide here. And let me know when y'all can see my screen here.
Yep.
So let's say const max equals require /max. Okay, oops. Wait, hold on a second. Where's my max function? Oh, yeah. Oh, whoops. It's not, it's the top level export from that file. I know that the JavaScript library has a standard max function, but so we can say max 50 or 100 here, like 100. We can say max 100, negative 100, and we get 100. Alternatively, we can use function.apply. So in here we have literal values of what it means to be, what the left value and the right value is. But if we were doing this as part of like a dynamic dispatch, we could say max.apply null. We'll pass. This is the kind of the JavaScript this, and then we pass it an array instead of the arguments, and so we're getting 100. It's the same answer. And that's really fantastic. And you find this pattern a lot, especially in UI frameworks. But back to this, what if we don't actually have those things as synchronous values? What if we have like remote values, right? So like we don't have the numbers on hand. We have some API where we're getting it from the left and we're getting it from the right. Well, then what we have to do is say, take the promise and we say, okay, we want to do promise.all left and right. And then we get those as arguments. So this arguments here is going to be an array, and then we can call max.apply, null args, and that is going to return a promise that has our result. So we're kind of doing the same thing, right? Like, wouldn't it be nice if we could just actually just do that? So for example, so like let's or another example here is like streaming values. Like I want to compose streaming values. So here I was composing remote values, asynchronous values, right? So I've got a list of these asynchronous values and I want a new asynchronous value, which is those original two, except with the max applied to them. So, but the same thing applies for like streaming values. So like here, like let's say I've got, an observable on the left and an observable on the right. And then I want my result to be an observable of, I just want to apply the max function, right? Like, how do I even do this? Like, you might be familiar with the promise API. And so you could have constructed this. I actually ran into a little bit of trouble here. How would I would even do this with like an observable? And the answer is that you can actually abstract function application over many different types of functors. Remember, functors are things that actually contain a value, like an array, like a observable, or like a promise. And so here's an example. So what we would really like to be able to do is, instead of saying this right here, what we'd really like to be able to do is say something like, promise.apply max, and then, so if we have like a promise here, so let left equals promise dot resolve 50, and we say right. What we'd really like to be able to do is essentially have some sort of thing like with function applications, where we can say promise.apply left right, or sorry, we want to apply max the left to this, to left right here, and have it just do it, right? So what we want to do is we want to say, let's take this max function, take the value out of this left promise, which is 50, take the value out of the right promise, which is 100, apply the max function to it, and then take the result and put that into a new promise. right? That's what we would like. And that's what applicative functors are all about. It's about abstracting function application over any type of container, whether it's a promise, whether it's an observable, whether it's a just, you know, a simple synchronous value. You can apply promise, or you can apply a function, and you don't have to do anything simple with the function, or you don't have to do anything complicated with a function. You're just using the simple max function. So Funkadelic, which is the library that I've been using, lets you do something like this. So what you can do is we can say const apply equals require Funkadelic. Oops, it's not. This is here. Okay, and so now what I can do is I can say let result equals apply. Now, so this we want to say this is promise application. We want to apply max to left and right. Okay, now let's look at result. Result is actually a promise. So if we say result.then, oops, what did I get wrong here? Are y'all still there?
Yep.
Okay. I've got a syntax error here. Oh, am I missing a string? Yeah. So you can see what happened there is the value is 100. And that was because you can see I have my left is, this value is in a promise, my right is in a promise. And so we're just applying this max function to this list of promises. And we're getting a new promise that has the result. And that means that instead of you know, kind of this monstrosity right here, oops, where we've got you've got to manually resolve all the promises, then box up the arguments, and then call your max function manually. You can just go straight to the function application. And it turns out that you can do this with lots and lots and lots of different functors. And so it makes the function application really, really clean. You just say, you know what, I want to do a promise application. I want to do an observable application. I want to do an array application. I can do, you know, all these wonderful things, but I'm using the same basic structure of like, I've got these values that are inside some computational context, whether it's a future value or a stream of values or, you know, a multiplicity of values, and I want to apply a function to those things. And then I want to get the result. And so that's it. It's actually a pretty simple concept. If you understand Function.apply, then you understand applicatives, and that's it. So I was thinking as an exercise, we might do something like, you know, try and implement it for observable, but I don't know, that might be a little bit too in the weeds. So that's it. That's it, y'all. It's not actually that hard of a concept if you already understand Function.apply. And you know, there's some mechanics about it, about putting the function into the instance. Like, so the way it actually works is when you take max, it actually puts max inside of a promise. But that's kind of one of the oddities of the implementation, not like something that's critical to understanding why you would want to do this. So hopefully this explains why you would want to do, why applicatives are useful. Here's another example. Think about in an ember inside of a model hook, right? You've got a bunch of, basically your model hook is a function that you want to apply to a set of asynchronous values. Well, you could probably rewrite your model hook as an applicative a little bit more cleanly, especially if you're doing a lot of if you're doing a lot of asynchronous stuff inside your model hook. Well, what you can do is you can actually separate out your model hook, which and use it, basically have your model hook be an applicative over a set of promises. Right? So I want to apply my model hook to these 3 promises.
So exercise is something weird today was how do you check variables? How do you combine those into basically like a promise?
Mm-hmm. How do you combine observables into a promise?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think you can do that.
That's the
answer. You don't?
Yeah.
I think you can take a promise and make it an observable. But I don't know if you can go the other way, if it makes sense to go the other way around. But it would be fun to actually implement an applicative instance for observable. And I started doing it, but then ran out of time. So the way that you would no. Don't bite my headphones. The way that you would do this is you would say, hold on a second. I need to put the dog out. I know. I love you, but come on. Time to go outside. Okay. Is you would say, like, I don't know exactly how this works, but I think it's. Oh, wait. Forgot we're in CommonJS. I'm code cross-wiring here. And then we can say applicative instance. And then, so you need to implement 2 functions. One is called pure. And this is getting into the weeds. So you take some pure value, and you have to return an instance of that value. So this is so you can take any value and you can make it observable. Or you can take the instance for, so if we actually look at the instance of applicative inside Funkadelic, promise, pure is just return promise.resolve value. Okay. As long as we're this code might actually look familiar, is that this is actually the implementation of apply for promise, is taking those values and then returning them. So this is going to be observable of, okay, and that takes, so we can take any value, a function, a number, or whatever, and we can make it an observable. Or is it observable from? I can't remember. I have RxJS. Feel free to jump in and help me here. And then if we have 2 observables, what we want to do is we want to return a new observable that applies the left to the right. So you can see here, let's see. Yeah, so I don't know exactly how to do this. I was hoping to have this written, but the point is, once you figure out this logic once of how to compose these 2 observables or how to apply a function over a set of observables, then it's done. Like, you have to write some hard code here and get into kind of the muckety-muck of observable. But then, once we do that, we can actually, like, create an observable that's just a function applied over n other observables. And the nice thing is then you know, as those observables change, that your like function changes. So anyway, observable might even have like an apply function, but that's neither here nor there. But that's all, folks. Any other questions?
No questions for me, but the Funkadelic looks awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really fun, and it's really powerful.
Fun in Funkadelic.
All right. Well, in that case, this one was short and sweet, but it's a simple concept. So let me know, and if you have any other questions, apply, and I'll see you all in the ether.
See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.